Well, thank you. The reason I'm here is because I'm really old. I'm so old my blood type has been discontinued. I use one of those AI apps which kind of takes an image of your face and then ages it to see what you'd look like when you were terrifically old. And it said to me, "You're okay." It's a big day today for me. I'm 74. I've just paid off my student loan. When you look at the slide deck, there's a lot more information than I can get through in the 40 minutes. You need to start the clock because I'll go over if you don't. But this is something about me, and I'm very grateful to Contact North, who I've been working with since 1066. There was me and Keith Richards. But Maxim and the team at Contact North have been enabled me to do some work and to celebrate some activities together. And one of the places you should look at regularly is a website run by Contact North called teachonline.ca. And you will find a terrific resource there, not just about AI, but about all sorts of aspects of online teaching, learning, and assessments. Now, I want to make it clear, I'm not here to promote this book. Okay. No, it looked like you believed me for a minute. No, I am, but you can get a 15% discount just by going to the Ethics Press website in the next 10 days because you're at this conference. All right. So I've been working on AI in higher education, particularly in online and distance learning, for about 10 years. Because, as you heard yesterday, AI is not new. ChatGPT-1 was released in 2018. Not everybody talks about 3. Where was 1? 2018. And nobody noticed. Well, I did, but most people didn't. So here's where we are right now. I've been doing some interviews with some leading thinkers around the world. And this idea that we're at the horseless carriage stage, where we're doing what we always do, slightly smarter with AI, is roughly where we're at right now. And I think we're also playing defense, which is that the air is being sucked out of conversations by this stuff about cheating. We are responsible for students cheating. Now, this may come as a shock to you. Students have been cheating since the Ming Dynasty. And they've been doing so because we've created a world in which high test scores seem to make a difference to learning outcomes, jobs, and their future. So no wonder they cheat. If we actually stop exams and stop that kind of testing and move to a whole different frame for assessment, cheating kind of disappears. So we should take responsibility for the fact that students cheat because it's our designs that enable that to happen. I find this quite shocking. These are, now, I must admit, these data are from North America. And, you know, part of North America is the United States. Strange place. If you look at the PIAC data, 20% of the US population is technically illiterate, and the average reading age of the American adult is grade 6. So it's no wonder that we have data that shows that faculty are reluctant to use AI, but students are. And we heard yesterday that we have something like 45% of students who are addicted users, like me, who use this AI resources every single day. The students are way ahead of us. So this notion of co-creation is actually about getting free professional development from your students. We should partner with students in the next phases of what we want to do. But I find this quite shocking. And it's actually, in some institutions, there's less than 15% of faculty who've ever used AI by the February of this year. Isn't that appalling? I think it's ridiculous. Part of what Peter Scott, who's the president of the Commonwealth of Learning, former Open University colleague, worked for a while as president of Athabasca, He said the real issue with AI is we don't want to give up control of the learning journey of students. Our control needs are getting in the way of learning. Who said every body of knowledge is organized in semesters? Who said that? Who came up with this idea? Well, that's our convenience, right? It's about us. Who said that there should be this number of hours for any course? We did, because it's a workload issue. So we're in control of the learner journey. What AI really enables is the student to take charge of their own learning journey and to change our role. This is not something most of our colleagues want to do. In fact, part of the resistance is focusing on control, not innovation. The potential and power of AI tools right now, and they get better every single day. If you don't right now subscribe to a daily journal called Ben's Bites, or look at a website called There's an AI for That, which now documents 36,000 AI apps, or look at the Rundown AI every working day, you will not be aware of the speed at which change is occurring in the AI business. Students are, we're not. And so this kind of issue of how do we keep control of business as usual in the university or college is actually going to lose out over time. If you listen to the conversations yesterday, and the conversations taking on about policy, they're all about trying to retain the business model of the institution. And it won't survive. My proposition to you is that we're in a in-between time. I wrote a paper earlier this year called the interregnum. The old model of what a university or college is dying. But the new model of what learning and adult learning looks like isn't yet clear. And so we're in this kind of strange interregnum period where everybody in this room knows that the game is up, but we won't admit it, and we're fighting to defend what we know is not going to be sustainable. And one of the reasons we're doing that is we have no clue what the future looks like. Well, you might have by the time I've finished. There was a lot of talk yesterday about upskilling and reskilling, but I'd like us to start talking about what we need to unlearn. And unlearning is more difficult than upskilling and reskilling. Upskilling is building on what you've got, and reskilling is trying to rethink how you can use the skills you've got in a different context and environment, adding skills to your portfolio. Unlearning means stopping doing what you've been doing and rewiring the brain. I think we have to rethink the relationship we have with knowledge and our students. I think we have to rethink in a very fundamental way what is the purpose and process for supporting learning through assessments for learning, and how can we reduce the power and oppressiveness of assessments of learning. I think we're going to have to reimagine our ways of knowing. And the reason I say this, I'll come on to a bit later on, but one of the near-term developments we're going to see is quantum computing. And quantum requires parallel thinking, parallel processing. In other words, logic, looking for the solution, is exactly the opposite of what quantum thinking is. And so we're going to have to teach a new generation of students to think in parallel and to think in multiple universes. And that is not something that's going on right now. I did a big conversation with the team at the Quantum Institute in British Columbia, beautiful part of the world, by the way, and they are saying, we can't hire staff. Doesn't matter whether they have PhDs in computing, doesn't matter whether they have years of experience in computing, because they're all using old logic. We don't want that. We want new wired brains that can imagine multiple possibilities simultaneously. So that's a new kind of learning. And to do that, we have to unlearn our current forms of logic. I think we're going to have to unlearn how we consider what research looks like and what the research process is. The reason I've written 50 books with 4 more coming this year is because I've been using AI for 5 years for that work. Now, you may say, oh, naughty boy, naughty boy. I can't afford a research assistant because I'm a private citizen. I do work for a university, but I'm a gig worker. And as we all know, we're exploited. We're not paid proper money. So my proper money goes to support Claude Opus, ChatGPT, and Perplexity. And some agents I have running. I have 22 agents running every day to look at resources and materials that relate to the work I'm trying to do. So we're going to have to unlearn our current thinking about what research ethics and research processes looks like. And from a leadership point of view in institutions, which I'll speak a lot about in a minute, they're going to have to unlearn what power, authority, and decision-making looks like because their game is up. And one of the issues we face is poor leadership in our institutions at a moment of massive change. And so I think we have some challenges, and this unlearning is important. Now, I attended a faculty meeting at the University of Alberta where I teach, and there's real fear of job loss. And if they came to your presentation on robotics in the classroom, and we had one yesterday, and if you look at some of the soft robots that are now being deployed around the world, the faculty are worried. These robots could take our jobs. We said, well, not if you're good at them. If you're a good faculty member, working on all the human skills you need, empathy, compassion, understanding, care, support, finding possibilities in every student in your room, then you're safe because no AI and no robot can currently do that. At the moment, anyway. This is the fear that faculty have. Now, I don't want to say that it's looking bad out there because there are some fantastic things going on. And you will have heard since you got here of some fantastic stuff people in this room are doing. This was prepared before I got here, so I just want to draw your attention to some of the great things that are happening. But here are 4 free tools that Contact North has developed, nothing to do with me, but a team inside Contact North has made these freely available. The first tool is for students. Learn anything, anywhere, any level, any time. The second one is for us, to help us build curricula, to build syllabuses, to build learning resources, to build those activities, those assessments, those designs that we want. And the other 2 are kind of career pathway finders, one's for general careers and one's for the trades, to say, look, these tools can be used to help you navigate your future, your learning, your teaching. So I want to just quickly, I'm not going to read these slides. First things they taught me at university was to learn to read. So I want you just to have a look at the kind of examples here. I'm just going to focus on the red parts of these slides. There's a huge amount of AI applications, particularly in data analytics, to look at how we can predict who's going to be vulnerable as a student, and then look at what interventions work for retention. And so there's some really good use cases here. And I think that, we have dropout rates in universities in Canada which average about 30%. So 15% of all undergraduate students drop out before Christmas in their first semester. What a waste of resources and a waste of capacity. So if we can do a better job at selection and a better job of supporting students and a better job of managing and helping with neurodiverse students, then we can increase retention. And that's a kind of money issue. It's also a moral issue, and it's a process issue. Tons and tons of work going on redesigning and reimagining teaching and learning and assessment, particularly around reimagining curriculum. So in the program, I teach on a graduate program that we created on future studies for school leaders, and we've stopped doing academic assignments and get students to do action research based on use case applications of AI in classrooms. And we also require oral presentations of that work. So I haven't set an exam since 1974 because I just don't believe in them. I don't think they add value. I think they suck out energy, passion, and create anxiety. I don't see any added value. So I've always done something differently. But here, we're trying to drive innovation in curriculum through the use of AI. Big stuff going on this, on assessment, some very important work going on here. And I think one of the issues is that unless we give students choices about how they choose to be assessed, then I think we're going to perpetuate biases that have been in the system since this university was founded some while ago. There is huge potential for AI to transform every single business process inside the university. I'm a recovering dean, a recovering provost. I have these tablets I take. They're really good. I recommend them. But if I was setting up a university right now, I wouldn't begin with the processes you're all using. I'd start from a white sheet, and I'd start with an AI team and begin to reimagine some possibilities. And there are Tech University in Monterey has done exactly that. But there are very few institutions willing to go back to the drawing board and change their business model, but that's what's going to happen. Been lots of talk in this room around policy, and you're going to hear more of this in Oporto apparently. Wonderful place, do go. Not only is it a beautiful place, but the wine, oh. These are the kind of framing of the policy spaces. This is the policy landscape. Lots of stuff around government and governance and ethics. Lots of stuff around the rules of collaboration and so on. And lots of attempts to balance security and privacy with innovation, rules and regulation with innovation. So there's this kind of weird policy landscape. But here's my kind of take on this policy conversation. It's way too early to lock down AI policies. Imagine trying to create policies for the use of the internet in 1990. Right? The internet took off in education in my part of the world in 1994 and really got serious in about 1998, 2000. It's still too early to regulate the internet. We're still trying to work out how to do that. So the reality of your current policies on AI is they're temporary. They will not last because AI is moving faster than the policy machines in the institution. And technology is going to get more complicated. So when you look at these use cases, and at the back of this presentation, when you get the slide deck, there are more and more case studies I've included in the slide deck that I'm not going to talk about. We have these fantastic pockets of innovation everywhere. But my good lady wife, Lady Lynn, we've been married 55 years, do you believe? I keep writing to the Pope trying to get sainthood for her, but even Leo hasn't responded. So we have these pockets of innovation, but as my wife says, a collection of pockets doesn't make for an attractive looking suit. So what we have is a kind of messy world of bits and pieces going on, some of which are amazing, but nobody knows about them. So what we don't have, what we have is a kind of crowd. We don't have crowdsourcing, we just have the crowd. And so we're at a kind of very early stage of trying to work out how do we get some collaboration and sharing going. And I do know that Machim, Jean-Louis, and Eden are having a conversation, Contact North and Eden are having a conversation about what this possibility will be. But most of the big experimentation is not being done by faculty. It's being done by students. So I have a major project running with 10,000 school students in the city of Toronto who are exploring. We told them, forget about this cheating thing. We don't care. We're not bothered. It's just a kind of blip. Don't even pay attention to it. Tell us what students are using AI for beyond cheating. They are running 52 focus groups with 10 students each, 5 times this summer. We've already surveyed 10,000 students, and you wouldn't believe the power and imagination students are showing for art, for music, for creative science, for all sorts of activities which would surprise us as faculty because we're kind of slow. It's nothing personal, don't take it personally. Now, I teach future studies, so I thought I'd spend some of my time, I've got about 20 minutes, to talk about the future. This was kind of about what's going on now. There's a tool we use called the Futures Triangle, where we look at 3 dimensions: the weight of the past, the push of the present, and the pull of the future. So I'm just going to use this frame. This is from Sohail Ayatollah in Malaysia, who I've worked with a lot. Here's the weight of the past. We have outdated technological infrastructure in our institutions and in our nations. So if we all took AI powerfully and seriously, we wouldn't be able to do a lot because the systems aren't there, the infrastructure systems aren't there to support the bandwidth we need. We have academic traditions like, let's take 2 years to make a decision about which textbook to use, right? I once turned up at a university faculty meeting with the police cars there, and they were arresting faculty members who were in dispute about the best textbook to use for teaching 101 accounting. Accountants fighting. That's fantastic. I mean, it was like going to a wrestling match. It was wonderful. But we're slow. The reality is we actually don't need textbooks anymore, right? I can create a textbook in a couple of minutes for any subject I need. You just saw now this micro-learning. That's one of the things students make a terrific amount of use of. And we have massive skepticism inside our institutions about AI, its place in teaching and learning, and a complete resistance to changing assessment. So the weight of the past is heavy. The weight of the past is a burden, could get in the way. The push of the present is that we have to do something because students are way ahead of us. We have to do something because we understand that if we don't, at some point, a new entrant into the market, like Coursera, who could get really serious, could eat our lunch. And so we're going to face a challenge either from the first group of institutions that really get together and push AI as a resource for reimagining the whole process of learning, teaching and assessment in our universities, and the process of research. Or we're going to face a new competitor, maybe somebody we've never heard of, that will take our lunch. And so that's one of the kind of concerns. A lot of talk yesterday about the skills we need, the knowledge, digital skills, digital fluencies we need to make this thing possible. My observation yesterday, and it was in the slide way before, is we have a bigger problem, which is that we have a massive level of illiteracy in our general population. So 44% of Canadian adults, including students, are at levels 1 and 2 on the 5-point PX scale. 42% of the adult population in the workforce in Canada do not have the literacy skills required for the job that they currently hold. And so we have massive literacy problems even before we get to digital literacies. And there's a huge push on trying to get the policy nailed down so we all know what we're going to be doing. How ridiculous. First of all, what faculty pays that amount of attention to policies coming from the Senate or from... No, I never did. And I was chair of the Senate. Never occurred to me to follow the rules. I didn't get where I am today by following the rules. And then the other big thing here on this push of the present is students are pushing us to say, can I do this with AI? Can I do that with AI? How about this? Can we work together with it? We have to answer these questions. So we're being pushed quite a bit. And the pull of the future is complicated because we have the vendors, you know, Sal Khan, you know, ChatGPT saying, oh, this will totally transform education as we know it. Now, this is I'm going to use a technical term now. This is bullshit. Because we've, you know, some of us have been in this room for many, many years. I was the first Eden with, you know, lots of people, a couple of people in this room, actually. And there was transformation talk back then. When the Open University began in 1970, began operations in 1970, we were all saying, because I was part of my mother was one of the first 17 students to enroll, oh, this will transform higher education as we know it. No, it won't. Read Audrey Waters' book about teaching machines. We've had this transformation conversation since B.F. Skinner for over 100 years. So we're not going to change unless we have to. So I don't find that a very convincing argument. But I do find this push for equity and this push for reimagining teaching and learning to get to be having growing momentum. So when you put these together, the pull of the past, so the weight of the past, the push of the present, and the pull of the future, we're in this kind of vortex of change, but the direction for development is not at all clear. Now, everybody's talked about AI, and there's been a little bit of talk about robotics, both yesterday and today. Thank you. But I think there's another big development that's very close now, which is quantum. So the first kind of quantum developments have been, well, if you don't know what quantum can do, let me give you an example. Pfizer and IBM work together a lot. So IBM gave Pfizer 4 minutes of quantum time on their quantum computing system. In that 4 minutes, Pfizer discovered 1,000 new potential antibiotics and 10 that are able to deal with antibiotic-resistant bugs in 4 minutes. Why? Because quantum processed all of the possible combinations of all of the substances Pfizer was looking at that would normally take, if they did it in the current way, would take 67 years in 4 minutes. This is going to revolutionize all sorts of things. So quantum is changing the game. An example from a dinner last night, Maxim was sitting next to a professor who's in the quantum lab, who said that one of their examples is, how do we stop the power outages that hit Spain and parts of France from occurring by better managing the grid? And you can't do it through conventional technologies. You have to use quantum to get there. Quantum is going to change so many aspects of how we think about science, how we think about organizing life. And as I said before, it requires unlearning logic and beginning to learn a new way of thinking about problems and problem solving and patterns of problems and patterns of solutions. This is going to demand a new curriculum from K to 12 and from 12 to PhD. So we're going to have to start thinking about this now, because the big developments in quantum are just 4 to 5 years away. And I think one of the kind of uses that we're looking at with a Quantum Institute is to stop this kind of weird conversation we've had since Skinner of adaptive learning and get quantum to create learning pathways for every person that matches personality, neurodiverse styles, and preferred ways of learning for any subject, anytime, anywhere, any level. Quantum will change what we all do. But I also think that it will change how we get employed. I think it will change the nature of employment, not just for us, but for every worker in the world. So I think this is going to be a big game changer, and I think we need to pay attention to it. The second development that's very close, we all thought this was going to take quite a long time. So the original kind of forecast for 2050 is artificial general intelligence. This is where AI is as smart as this collection of people put together. And you say, really? Have you met Michael? That's what somebody said to me, actually. I don't know who Michael is. But we've already got that. So in various fields of medicine, in diagnostics in particular, AI is now better than panels of doctors. For certain cancers, AI can take all the information, the MRI data, blood data, any kind of data, and do a better predictive job than any combination of medical doctors you could put together. The Moorfields Hospital in London, which is one of the biggest eye hospitals in the world, no longer does eye diagnostics. Google does it, because it's better and more reliable and less of a risk from an insurance point of view than the doctors doing this diagnostic. So we already have some pockets where AI is smarter than a combination of smart people. The number of those incidents will just simply keep rising. The current prediction is about 2030, 2032, artificial general intelligence will be here. So if I'm a student and I can chat with an AGI machine, or I can chat with Michael, who am I going to choose? Well, if Michael's buying a beer, I'll choose Michael. But if he isn't, I'll choose the machine, because it's cheaper. Because I'd have to buy Michael a beer at one point. So I think we're going to see a real shift in who has access to knowledge on demand 24/7. We don't offer that service. AI will. So if I really want to learn something, I will not need you as much as I need you now. So get ready to think differently about what your work is. Because the real work we do is nothing to do with knowledge transfer. It's about connecting to people. We're going to have to get better at that than we are at the knowledge transfer business, because that's not going to be our business. So I think things like compassion, empathy, warmth, genuineness, connection to people, finding the talent that that student has and nurturing it for the rest of their lives is our work. Now, as a futurist, we also start to use this model, the Three Horizons kind of future developed by McKinsey, to think about what the patterns of the future are. So I'm just going to walk through these reasonably quickly, because we've done a fair bit of work as a team with my grad students looking at this. So I think between now and 2030-ish, we're going to see kind of a larger number of faculty really getting their head around how they could co-create and co-partner with AI to deliver better learning and teaching experience for students. And we're going to have to reimagine assessment as part of that process. This preoccupation with cheating will gradually fade and be replaced by new forms of assessment that we can't imagine right now. That's the kind of all within the business as usual model of the university or college. We're going to see universities, because they're incredibly inefficient. Right? I mean, they're unbelievably inefficient institutions. Just look at the workload kind of allocations and faculty appraisal. I mean, it's just a mess. I think we're going to get better at running these places using some of the AI tools, but we're going to spend the next decade really preoccupied with ethics and bias and equity and diversity and inclusion issues, whether or not Trump is still in power. But during this same window between now and 2030, you're going to see the emergence of robotics and quantum And you're going to see the AGI kind of emerging in this time. And that will push us to start changing the business as usual model. Some universities, Tech University of Monterey is a leading example, but Ontario Tech in Ontario is going to be another. And there are pockets of institutional pockets around the world that are beginning to kind of imagine blowing up what they've been doing since this university was founded, and starting to think about what the next century of learning is going to look like. So you're going to see lots of experimental designs for institutions and faculties and programs. And we will see the emergence of soft, compassionate, empathic robots skilled in cognitive behavioral therapy, because they're already here. They're deployed currently in South Korea and Japan for elder care, and they're being deployed in Norway through a new soft robotics company as domestic assistants. I showed my wife a picture of one of these domestic robots, and it was cleaning the windows. And my wife said, "We need one of them. I can't get you to do that." The third horizon is this horizon when all of the kind of components I've just talked about, quantum, generative AI, kind of writ large, that's smarter than the average man and woman, we're going to see that kind of take over. And my prediction is we're going to see decentralized credentialing. This is something I was talking about yesterday in the forum on the collaborations across the EU. I think credentialing needs to be taken away from our institutions and made a national activity, so that I, as a student, doesn't matter where I learnt something, can get credit recognition for what I know, what I can do, and what I understand. One of the experiments we just did was to look at whether university faculty in a particular university were capable of doing competency assessment for demonstrated skills where video is the vehicle for the skills development. And the answer was no. They much prefer to do an exam. And you say, but these are veterinary surgeons doing surgery on animals. What exam could you test? Like, can't you watch this video and recognize the 22 competencies in this video? No. So we use veterinary practitioners to do the competency assessments because the faculty couldn't. Think about that for a minute. So I think the third horizon is going to be the big change horizon, but it's coming at us fast. Now, I presented these three horizons as if they're all separate, but they all actually happen at the same time. So they're all happening in parallel. There are some other views of the future. There's a paper written called Bullshit Universities, which is about AI taking over what the university can do. It's a live link to the paper. There's colleagues from Monash University. And their big concern, and the concern of all of us, is metacognition and the decline of metacognition as more Gen Z students see the university as a transactional space, as a mechanism for a good job. And the other kind of concern is that the preoccupation with security, privacy, ethics, bias, cheating is getting in the way of innovation. And so there's some very deep concerns that this will get in the way. I have 2 minutes, so I'm just going to talk about two key dimensions for future scenarios. One is very high personalization, and the other one is very traditional teaching. So this is one kind of tension. So let's go from traditional teaching like this into everybody in the room is working on their own towards a similar kind of set of objectives. The other dimension is low AI integration versus high AI integration. And that gives us these four kind of models of what a university and learning experience might be like. What I think we have right now is a kind of shift from the artisan college to the augmented academy going on. But I think some of you will find yourself drifting to the smart campus. But other institutions I'm very aware of are saying, let's resist all of this. Let's stop it. Let's put a block to this. It's bad for students' health. They may get their own ideas. We can never have that. So they're going to go to the classic college, back to the Oxbridge kind of model. And I think we're kind of in this in-between time. So we're transitioning to a new reality. We're going to have to learn some new skills as faculty. And you can teach old dogs new tricks. So we're all learners in this room. That's why we're here. We can learn from each other, but we need better sharing and collaborative networks to share fantastic use cases and to share failures. Sharing failures is more important than sharing success. We learn more from failure than we do from success. But we're going to have to solve some other problems, like which AI do you choose? Because there are now 36,000 apps, 30 new apps every single working day. So how do you choose? And who chooses? We should never, as faculty, do not let your IT department tell you what to do, because they know nothing. I used to run one. So here's the conundrum. I have 14 seconds, so I'll probably take about 19. I've talked about the crowd, which is the kind of all sorts of people doing all sorts of stuff but not talking to each other. What we need is an expedition laboratory, a place that's organizing the crowd to share experience and practice. But the thing we need more than anything else is a new kind of leader for our institution. And my kind of new book that's coming out later on in the year is what happened to leadership in our institutions? Where's the courage gone? Who is an inspiring leader that gets the future and is pushing us there, not being dragged there by the faculty or the students? Not many around. So I think we have two sets of problems. One is leadership, and one is that we have a big crowd doing all sorts of wonderful things, but nobody can see where the crowd is going. So it's time for innovative leadership. It's time for serious leadership. And I think we need a new breed of leadership, and we should stop hiring leaders who've got 2 PhDs and a dog. We should hire people, I don't care what qualifications they have, who've got imagination and courage. I would like them to have run something big and complicated, because universities and colleges are. But I am no longer preoccupied with, oh, he doesn't have a PhD. Thank God for that. So, finishing, I know I'm done. 2 quotes from one of the great geniuses of all time, Yogi Berra, a baseball player. When you come to a fork in the road, take it. The future isn't what it used to be. Thank you.